to it, because not doing that would deprive you of the advancement of scholarship which a doctorate has to be associated. So what I'm saying, I would encourage students to look at these comparisons, because these concepts are about producing good societies. There is a very important concept in Islamic education that I think is not given enough consideration to. It's the whole concept of Medina, which is really a city. That's the Arabic meaning for Medina. But it's not just a city, it's a city that is controlled by rules and regulations. And even if you look at the root of Medina, which is MDN, and the whole notion of Tamadun, which means a civilization, and a refined human species that is situated on the earth. That notion of producing civilized, caring beings, recognizing the other, is sacrosanct to the Islamic discourse. So if you say that is what you need to do, then I cannot see how you can always be detached from that which you consider as outrageous. So what Cabal teaches me, if I want to do a doctorate in citizenship education, I should actually think about what would a doctorate in citizenship education in my context mean if my context were not to have been conducive for citizenship. Now let me tell you what I have in mind. I have never encountered any credible citizenship education program in the entire Arab and Muslim world. I don't see, it doesn't exist. So how do we expect citizens to know about engaging with the other, about talking back, about offering a critical point of view, if this is not being taught in their schools? So for me, learning about, and I've said it before on another occasion, all that one is being taught about citizenship education would be couched under the ideas of civic education and national education. But the idea of democratic citizenship education is taboo for the Arab and Muslim world. It doesn't exist. But I say it doesn't have to be like that. Because you have to engage with thinking and vice versa, which might be completely outrageous for you to do. But what is being done in the Arab and Muslim world, I must also add, was teaching little ones in schools about loyalty, undivided loyalty to the king. Teaching teacher education students in the final year not to be political in the education profession in Saudi Arabia. That's outrageous for me. So I'm saying, if you want to be attached to particular understandings of democratic citizenship education, it doesn't matter where it actually comes from. But the possibility might be there that you might learn from its points of origin, and it can be both ways. I'm always puzzled by what's the obsession with Africans to throw Eurocentrism overboard. It doesn't have to be like that. we cannot say as Africans everything that comes from the West are bad, and vice versa. So I actually go the quasi-Beridu way, the African scholar who argues that we should actually interrogate what we say comes from the West, and then look at how we can integrate with what we consider to be African. There's also the other way around. I sometimes hear debates in liberal discussions, even at the conferences where I attend, where the concept of, say, this African concept of human interdependence, it's called Ubuntu, is being scorned upon. But that particular concept doesn't seem to find a way into liberal discourses. I say that is wrong, because it might be that if we interrogate those concepts and begin to find out their point of origin and the implications for societal life, it might be that you can also learn from the expositions of human interdependence in the oral traditions of people. So it's the other way around as well. So I am advocating for an analysis of concepts in an integrated way. Sometimes I'm attached to that particular concept, and sometimes I can be detached. But it doesn't mean that I throw the concept away. And that's where my prevalent skepticism comes from. It brings me to, I've actually made, okay, let me take the idea of skepticism further. What Cavell does in the book, The Claim of Reason, is to sketch a profound opportunity for human coexistence. And he does it by making skepticism an opportunity in terms of which you can reach out to others, acknowledging their humanity. I cannot, coming to the doctorate, I cannot see how we can say that we want to do scholarship at an advanced level, which has very little to do with changing the society in which we live. And that's actually the point I'm making. Because we are embedded and situated in that society. So even the very work that we do invariably has to shape us and those that for whom we think the work should change. And if it means that I'm serious in a skeptical way about the society in which I live, then it actually means I demonstrate through the work I do at this level of scholarship that I care and acknowledge the humanity of others. And it's of very little use if my scholarship doesn't change me, or if my scholarship has no impact on the society where I'm embedded. I mean, when John Stuart Mill was criticized for his liberal, his conception of liberalism as an individual discourse, many people are wrong about Mill. I've never thought that Mill was advocating for a sense of individual liberty, as if the individual has a sense of liberty divorced from society. In Mill's text, he actually argues for that self-liberty, but in community. and some of the argument I'm making, that if I consider myself as detached from the very community in which I do my research, in which I do my doctoral work, where I do it, and often extensive empirical work suggests that I perform this kind of qualitative analysis. I work with surveys in particular communities, but seldom my work actually impacts the very community that I've worked with. And that kind of detached research is a demonstration of your inhumanity to the very people you engage with. That's actually the Cavalian point I make. This point number 3. It reminds me also of a proverb in Arabic. And there's also a saying of the Prophet: if you see something wrong, you must change it. But I think that particular saying has been abused by many, as you need to change it physically. My argument would be you need to change it rationally, you need to change it intellectually. It's extending a hand to someone doesn't mean that I'm compelled to use physical violence to change the situation. Extending a hand, change with my hand, would also mean that I actually do something concrete about it, which would be far more advantageous than changing it with your hand, because violence only breeds violence. Now, for me, that's about showing your responsibility towards the others. And that's what I mean by the doctorate. Too many of our theses are located and dislocated on the shelves. And they seldom find their ways. I speak about my native country. For many of our students, and because our government is so insistent that we have to increase the PhD productivity, that we have to enhance our throughputs, and our supervisors and promoters are placed under enormous stress to get them through the program. And sometimes we become so obsessive about producing them, but have they actually learned? Have we gone through a technical process of supporting someone through a PhD, and that person has acquired the paperwork, but what is being written and reflected in the text is not even worthwhile? It cannot even find its way into some kind of publication that will suggest that this is credible work that has been produced. And many of the South African theses, because I cannot speak about other countries, so I speak about my native country, have been accused of being atheoretical. And that's the point that I'm actually driving at. They have been accused of being atheoretical because for many reasons, because students were initiated into the discourse of the doctorate thinking that there is no space for critique. There is no space for solid theoretical work. I always use this cliche: you don't need too much data. You can do far more with less data. And I found that sometimes in the doctorate, students become so entrapped within the fieldwork components of the work, and then forget about producing rigorous theoretical pieces